A little bit on if you make your game plans as a trader, you owe it to yourself to take that trade, right? There's always going to be something that's going to be in your mind to prevent you from clicking buy in those fearful moments. We all feel it, even me to this day, right? Experienced multiple years trading, there's always going to be moments in the market where the best triggers, they feel super uncomfy, and there's always going to be something doubt in your mind of like, oh, if this fails, I'm going to lose money. But you need to remember, like, you did the homework, you planned the trade, you planned the area you want to take the trade, you got the trigger for the trade. What now is preventing you from clicking buy? And what prevents all of us is the fear of losing money, right? So this comes down to two things. Number one is going to be on you, right? Is your game plan good enough, right? Are you borrowing conviction from someone? So it's going to be much easier for you to click buy on your own plans, right? You have a thesis on a coin. They're having a network upgrade 2 months from now. They're sitting at support. You know that there's going to be bullish, or it's going to be bullish, or it's sitting in an EMA that's been successful over the past 3-4 months and is coming back to that region. This is a plan that you made for yourself. No one handed to you, right? That's self-conviction. Borrowed conviction is always harder to stay disciplined on. If someone else gave you a trade, if I gave you a trade and I say, I'm taking this, right? I want this trade, and you didn't have it planned, it's going to be harder for you to take that trade because now you're relying on someone else to make the game plan for you. Oh, what if they're wrong? What if they're incorrect? Do I really want to take this? It's going to be much harder to do, right? So always pay attention to that. Are you taking a trade that you want to take, or are you kind of borrowing that idea from someone else, right? If you're borrowing that idea from someone else, when push comes to shove, it's going to be harder to click that button, which is why it pays to make your own game plans for your trades, right? Another thing is going to be sizing, right? So if the fear comes from, I'm going to lose money, ask yourself, are you doing something different with your sizing in this moment? Because a lot of us do this thing, right? It's human nature of, let's go back to Bitcoin here. This is a generational entry, right? Oh my God, if I'm correct, Bitcoin can rip to new all-time highs. And you start doing this thing in your mind of mental math. And that mental math is, if I buy one Bitcoin and it goes up 25K, man, I just made $25,000. If I buy 2 Bitcoin though, that's $50,000. If I buy 3 Bitcoin, that's $75,000, right? And we get in our minds of like, this is such a good trade. I need to size up into it. It's Wimbledon right now. It's Wimbledon finals. I need to do this, right? And then you take your trigger and you're trading with sizing that you're not used to. You haven't practiced this. You haven't used this sizing before, and you go a little bit underwater. And when you go underwater, you're seeing red numbers that you're not used to seeing. And there's a pressure moment, tariffs and this and that and the other thing. If you're sizing up and you're underwater and there's external pressures in the market, what are you going to end up doing? You're going to say, man, this is a stupid decision. I don't know what I'm doing. This is a bad thing. What if things go apart, like fall apart? Oh my God, if I take a loss, I'm going to take a loss that's way bigger than I can handle. Like, I'm betting way too big here. You end up closing your position at a loss just for the idea to play out without you. Because you've oversized, right? You've oversized your own capabilities, right? You haven't trained for that moment. The best thing you could do for yourself in these times is remind yourself it's just one trade, right? There's no extra points in the market for bottom ticking something, right? If you miss perfect entries right here, understand there's another trade tomorrow, and then another trade the next day. There's another trade the next day. There's another trade the next day, right? Not every single trade in these moments has to be this Super Bowl moment where you put this so much pressure on yourself that you start messing with your sizing even though you haven't prepared for it, right? So if you're sizing too big in these pressure moments, try to stick with your standard sizing. Yes, in hindsight, you're going to say, man, I wish I really sized up. But understand that if you do, and you're not kind of mentally strong enough for this, and you haven't experienced this before, you're bound to do these terrible things where you chop yourself up and you close your position and you're underwater and you don't know that pressure. You guys may remember my own positioning here. I longed. I was looking for a higher low. I went underwater. I said my original trade thesis is that we should set a higher low here. The stock market fell apart. S&P is going down 22%, and Bitcoin ran lower. My original trade thesis was we're going to set a higher low. My invalidation was we shouldn't set a lower low. We set a lower low, and I felt so much pressure in that moment. I felt a lot. I felt pain. I felt fear. I was like, this is size that, could hurt a lot if I'm incorrect, but I'm holding on because This is something that I've experienced before. I experienced these pressure moments 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 times. I've been in the market. I've seen FTX. I've seen 3AC. I've seen all these. I've seen the Japan yen carry trade. I kind of know what to expect in this moment. I think we're going to get a bounce. It's just a little bit scarier at this moment. So I stuck with my plan, but I'm not going to LARP and say that it wasn't scary. It was very scary at that moment, right? Holding on to that position was tough. So sizing is a big factor when it comes to fear. And if you're not experienced with sizing up in these moments, I think the big suggestion I have is stick to your standard sizing, right? Get used to these moments. Get used to just clicking the button when you're supposed to, because that gives you experience, that gives you edge. And the next time around, if you want to tinker with adding more size, feel free to do so, because you've at least experienced it 1 time or 2 times or 3 times, right? And then the last thing is, like, maybe you're trading without a plan. Maybe you didn't have that plan to bid a certain location, and now prices come there, and a lot of people around you are either fearful or bullish, and they're taking advantage, and you had no plan for this moment, and all of a sudden you're taking trades you didn't plan. It's going to be very hard to execute on that, right? So game planning, once again, I'm not going to go too long on that one. And then the last thing is, like, maybe you've managed your risk. You've bet the appropriate size. You've bet the appropriate location. You're happy with your thesis. It's your own conviction. It's not borrowed. You've ticked all the boxes, but you're still scared to click the button. Now you're just being a bitch. And that sounds very harsh, but it is the reality. We've all been there. I've been there many times myself, where I've been too scared to click a button, even though everything has checked the boxes. And at the end of the day, what are you scared of? You're just scared of being wrong. You're scared of losing some money. But nothing in this market is guaranteed. Even the best setups in the market are going to fail. Even your S tier setups you're going to lose on sometimes. Everything can fall in your lap and you can still be wrong. That's part of the game. There's nothing in this market that's so mechanical that you can just, A, B, C, and be right 100% of the time. Losses are part of the game, and you have to acknowledge that it's part of the game. And just try to have the courage to execute on your plans when times are bad, especially if you've developed your own plan, sized appropriately, prepared for this moment. You owe it to yourself to click that button. And many people won't. And if you don't the first time or the second time or the third time, it's okay. It's a learning pains. But if you're in this market for several years and you're still doing that, you need to stack up. Tough love, but that's something that needs to be overcome, because this game isn't easy, right? The best trades are going to feel the most uncomfy, and the comfiest trades are going to be the most risky. That's the kind of inverse mentality that's hard to manage in this market, because the inverse is what people default to. Is when it feels scary, don't touch it, and when it feels comfy, touch it, right? And that's the inverse of that is what helps make you profitable. Kobe had a really, really good Substack on this in 2021, where he was talking about meta shifts in crypto, right? When a meta is shifting from, AVAX subnets being really bullish to DFK or to this or that. And the new and shiny thing is always going to be scary. And typically speaking, when that new and shiny thing is no longer new and shiny and everyone's comfortable with the thesis and everyone agrees, that edge is eroded. The outsized gains are going to be gone, right? So same thing with trading. When coins go to locations that feel very scary, a lot of times those are going to be the best entries.